You've been following this money trail with Donald Trump. There's so many money things happening with Donald Trump this week. There's a reduced bond that he does actually have to produce, and I'd love to know your thoughts on where you think he is there. Donald Trump is on paper many billions of dollars wealthier than he started the week because his stock has started trading, and that's a really interesting story about how that all came to be. And he's selling Bibles for $59.99. Start wherever you'd like, Suzanne.
I think I'll leave the Bibles for a little bit, maybe start with the bond. He has to pay a reduced bond, $175 million, and that's down from $450 million and change. So that happened earlier in the week. It seems like weeks ago, but I think it was just on Monday that hit, when the appellate court came down and said you can post a smaller bond. It doesn't mean eventually, if he's not successful on appeal, that he won't have to pay the full thing. But the appellate court, they didn't give a reason for the reduction, but they said for now you can post that and move forward with the appeal. I don't know where he's at with the payment. I would have thought he might have moved a bit more quickly because he's clocking interest on that, but he's still got a few days to post it. And it feels like he'll come up with the cash somewhere. We don't know, but it feels like what the appellate court did sort of took some oxygen, or sort of took a lot of pressure off of that discussion.
Now, the one thing he can't do is he can't use the cash that the book value that he's increased by this week because of his stock. But this was an interesting story. This is the Truth Social, merged with a shell company, went public. He's got a lot of followers, a lot of people who are not typical investors or institutional investors who bought this thing. Stock was way up. Then it was just up a lot. Tell me about whether this has any relationship to his financial troubles and whether he can leverage that money at all.
So we don't know where he's going to get the money from. He said that he's going to put up cash, but you can get cash from a lot of places. The Truth Social, it went public through this company, and it began trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol DJT this week. But we don't know. It looks like right now he can't use his value of his shares, his equity in that, to meet the bond. But his shares are worth billions, but they're locked up until October. But there's talk that he could get a waiver potentially, and maybe sell some shares. So we just don't know. I don't want to say with any certainty he can't do it. I'm always careful about, what I don't know. But it looks like the rules right now are he's got to wait 6 months to access those shares. And who knows what they're going to be worth in 6 months. So, there's speculation he'll get a loan off those shares. I don't know who would lend him money on those because you just don't know what it's going to be worth down the road.
Well, in the old days, Suzanne, you and I used to know what a stock was worth because it generally followed a pattern based on what a company had earned or what a company was expected to earn. In this case, there's no relationship between the price of this DJT stock and what the underlying asset, Truth Social, earns.
And I think it's really important to remember the revenue of this company is minuscule, and it's not making money. I mean, it feels like a sort of GameStop stock right now. I mean, it's these stocks are very speculative. I think there's a lot of people, supporters of Donald Trump, in there trying to push it up. I mean, it's a very volatile and high risk stock. So it could be anywhere from worth a lot more in 6 months to almost zero in 6 months. We just don't know. But, right now it doesn't look like he can immediately access it. But, the board, they're friendly to him. They may vote and allow him to do it. Or he may draw on his own cash. We don't know how much cash he has on hand. But, there's a sense that he may have enough to meet this. But we really just don't know.
Democrats won big on abortion rights again, this time in deep red Alabama.
I think this is a giant step forward for Alabama. I think it's a victory tonight for women, for families, for Alabama in general. It feels like it's the start of a change here.
Last night on this program, we broke the news that the Democrat Marilyn Lands flipped a seat in the Alabama State House. She actually won that special election by 25 points in a district that Donald Trump won by 1 percentage point in 2020. The Biden-Harris campaign has called her win a major warning sign for Trump, saying that Alabama voters, quote, know exactly who to blame for restricting their ability to decide how and when to build their families, and they're ready to fight back, end quote. It's a seat Marilyn Lands ran for 2 years ago and lost by 7 points to Republican David Cole, who held that seat until he pleaded guilty to voter fraud in August. Marilyn Lands ran on women's reproductive rights in Alabama, where the state Supreme Court ruled that frozen embryos are people and which has a near total abortion ban. She shared her own experience with abortion in this campaign ad.
I was pregnant with a baby who had a fatal condition and would not survive. And because of Alabama's abortion ban, we had to drive 10 hours to get the medical care I needed.
I once faced a nearly identical situation, but was able to get the care I needed close to home. It's shameful that today women have fewer freedoms than I did 2 decades ago. We need to repeal Alabama's abortion ban and protect women's freedoms. And if you elect me, that's exactly what I plan to do.
Joining us now is the Democrat State Representative Marilyn Lands of Alabama, who was sworn into office earlier today. Congratulations. Thank you for being with us. Tell us how you did this. How'd you turn this district around?
Well, it was a pretty amazing victory. And I did not expect it to be the landslide it was. But we had so many conversations with people at the doors, and people reached out to me, and it was such a personal thing that everyone was sharing stories and stories they hadn't told. Some people said, I haven't told this story in 30 years, or no one knows this but my family. And so I've heard of struggles with miscarriages and infertility and ectopic pregnancies and just the heartbreak all of these situations bring to families. And it has felt very different from my 2022 campaign, a totally different energy. I mean, women hug me at the doors, and this message has just resonated.
You know, when Roe fell, the first state I went to talk to people about it was Alabama, because Alabama quickly became one of the most restrictive places in America as it related to reproductive health care. And I remember a number of the people there with whom I spoke said, don't give up on Alabama. Don't assume that you can tell people in Alabama what other states they can go to, because that's what they'll have to do. But don't let the fight in Alabama go out, because this is the front line of the fight, not just for abortion and reproductive rights, but for contraception, who knew we were fighting about IVF until recently. So the point was, pay attention to Alabama. Things can change there.
And I was stunned by the IVF ruling. And I felt like Alabama has become ground zero for attacks on women's freedoms and reproductive health care. And yesterday's victory just showed that the people want something different. Things are changing. The people have spoken. And I think things are going to change pretty rapidly here. I'm excited.
It has animated people. It has caused people who, in many cases, have voted Republican or think of themselves as conservatives in the past to say, there's Doug Jones was on with Joy earlier today, and he said, it feels like a line has been crossed for many people in Alabama, and they won't put up with it.
Many people have said we have just gone too far. And from my personal story, the fact that we stepped 2 decades backwards, I mean, this is not progress. And we want progress. We want to move forward. I think that's where we're at.
There is on March 6th, I think, or at least it was reported on March 6th, that Representative Anthony Daniels from Huntsville introduced the Right to Contraception Act. And I remember when I was down in Alabama, people telling me they're coming for contraception, too. It's actually hard for women who are not covered or don't have insurance to get a doctor's appointment if they don't already have one. So this idea, even getting contraception, is something that has become more difficult in Alabama than it was before the fall of Roe.
Exactly. And I'm very fearful because when the Dobbs decision was handed down and Alabama pulled the Trigger Act, all other states followed. And my biggest fear is that whatever we do next is gonna spread. And so we've got to stop it here. And I think the victory last night really showed that that's what the people want. We are ready to stand up for women's health, reproductive freedom. It's not something that the legislature should be involved in. It's a personal decision.
So that sounds like a very strong argument in a conservative state. What does the rest of the argument look like when you saw Joe Biden and Vice President Harris talking about this, you as an example, and about your campaign? How does it go in red states? Tell me what that argument is to people to say you've got to come out and vote because your rights are being taken away.
I have found that, at least in this district, which does tend to be maybe a little bit different than the rest of Alabama, that many people who consider themselves traditional Republicans are standing with this issue. And especially when the IVF ruling came down, that there's just been this pushback that we have gone too far and we need to move forward. And that's what I think this victory signifies.
Alabama State Representative Marilyn Lands, thank you for joining us this evening, and congratulations.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much.
Let's talk about these NPAs. Maxwell Frost was talking about Tom Keene winning 65 to 70% of NPAs. How many NPAs, no party affiliation people, are we talking about in Florida in terms of a percentage? How big a deal is this?
Oh, wow. It's quite a large number. I mean, NPAs are the largest growing political segment that we have in the state. And so it's simply not possible to win an election without them. But the good news is that many of them want to vote with us, just like they did in that special election. They want candidates who are going to protect their freedom in these personal medical decisions.
Beth Matuga, who is the general consultant for the Florida House Democratic Campaign's District 35 special election, wrote a blog post about the success the Democrats had in flipping that seat. Republicans, I'm reading from it, Republicans have also generously handed us a potent and unique combination of pocketbook and social issues that combine into their very own kryptonite: abortion and property insurance. I can scarcely remember a more effective 1-2 punch for NPAs, no party affiliation, and some GOP voters. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the evolution in Florida into a place that is now going to welcome Democrats who come in and say, we have a better solution to kind of everything that the Republicans in the state are touching.
Yeah, well, for too many years, Florida has become an incubator for extremism. We've got book bans, we've got the abortion bans, not one, but two of them, right? Like, we've lost the right to teach history accurately. So there's a lot going on here, and people are paying attention. When it comes to the personal medical decision of abortion, really, the Republican candidates have disqualified themselves on that because they don't even want to talk about it. But here we have Democrats who are willing to protect everyone's freedom, and not just Democrat freedom, right? Everybody's freedom across the board. Meanwhile, you look at the affordability crisis. I mean, Florida has the highest property insurance rates in the nation. So we're able to disqualify the Republicans on abortion, but then come in with affordability solutions. And that is the powerful 1-2 punch that Matuga was talking about.
I was just talking to Marilyn Lands about this in Alabama, where the things that Republicans are doing in Alabama are causing people who consider themselves traditionals, conservatives, Republicans in Alabama to say, this is too much. We're not interested in this. Tell me about Florida and how that's working. What's the relationship between people who identify as Republicans, but who are prepared to say, we need a different plan here?
Right. Well, you can look at the ballot initiative that's going on right now to try to protect access to freedom, to reproductive freedom. And we refer to it as Yes on 4. And this is an initiative that collected over 1 million petitions from Floridians, right? Not just Democrats, but Republicans and NPAs. So the people of Florida have spoken very clearly in terms of what they want. Now we just hope that the Florida Supreme Court will listen. We know that in my caucus, we believe that every Floridian deserves the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. And that's what we will continue to fight for this November and beyond.
Florida is always an interesting place to follow. Since the time that Barack Obama won Florida, the politics and the behavior of the politicians there has changed a lot. Tell me about what the shape of the effort to to reclaim Florida looks like for Democrats. Is abortion going to be central to that attempt?
You know, I think abortion is going to be central to every conversation because it's top of mind for people. You know, we saw what happened in Alabama with that IVF decision, and folks said, whoa, you know, what is happening here? And we were like, yes, this is the quiet part that they don't want to say out loud. They don't want to just stop at abortion, right? Like now they're looking at contraception and other things. So yes, it will be central to every conversation. You know, I really do hope that the Florida Supreme Court listens to the will of the people, that they look at this ballot language, which is simple and elegant, and that they approve it and allow Floridians to have their voices heard at the ballot box. But yes, absolutely. In each of these House races, we are going to have to talk about the issues that matter most to voters. That's what we did in the special election. So we talked about abortion. We talked about affordability, especially in the name of property insurance. And that's what the community wants to hear. So we have to deliver solutions for them.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.